You're listening to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast, where we discuss whatever the fuck we want to. And yes, we can put sex and drugs and Jesus all in the same bed and still be all right at the end of the day. My name is Devanin, and I'll be interviewing guests from every corner of this world as we dig into topics that are too risque for the morning show, as we strive to help you understand what's really going on in your life. There is nothing off the table, and we've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right into this episode. My guest today is all the way from the UK, and he is helping men build confidence, become their true selves, last longer in bed, and masturbate like they mean it, baby. Yes. His name is David Chambers, and he is the host of the Authentic Man podcast. And he's also an accomplished dating and intimacy coach as well. This man is a master of mindfulness and Tantric practices, and it was a real pleasure to talk about sex with him on my show. Hello, David, the Authentic Man, man's man. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling really, really kind of grounded and calm. I just before we got on about an hour ago, I was lying on a massage table with my Reiki master doing her magic. So I'm now feeling super relaxed and zen. So I'm really feeling good.
Well, shit, that's how you get ready for a fucking interview. You get the Reiki master over there and you get all zen out.
Yeah, man.
Well, I
clear out all the energy, get relaxed.
I took a shower.
Same thing there.
But see, that's how your podcast, The Authentic Man, it starts off that way. Like your voice is so low and calm. You've got the massage music going, and you're already getting people into a state of hypnosis before you even start talking about what you really came there to talk about that day. Oh,
never mind.
Okay, so David, tell us about how you got started on the path for being a dating coach. Talk to us about your history and your struggles and everything that led to that path.
Yeah, it's a big question. I about just say 15 years ago, young 20-something-year-old man, and I was just not as happy with my dating life as I wanted to be. Like many of us, I'm sure I was 20 odd years old. I was kind of up and coming in my career, my tech career. And I was, looking to expand my life and expand my horizons and do new things. And I was finding myself going to bars and clubs and meeting women who they weren't really interested in the sort of things I was interested in. They wanted to, go to bars and clubs and maybe buy some handbags and shoes and holiday and, get drunk, that sort of thing. And I was feeling a little bit tired of that. I feel like I was growing out of that a little bit. And I wanted to travel a lot. I wanted to, dive into new cultures, try new experiences, do things that push my comfort zone. So I was a bit frustrated with that. So I started Googling one night, as you do. And I came across a book that promised to teach a man, how to talk to women, how to talk to higher quality women, I guess the phrase would have been in those days. And the book was The Game. So like many a man at that time, I picked it up, I read it cover to cover in a few weeks. And I used some of the techniques I definitely did. I went out and, some of the lines, some of the first pick up, the kind of introductory lines, as I probably call them, is helped me with confidence a lot of the time. So then I ended up at a boot camp. And at the end of that boot camp, I turned to the teacher, the head teacher, the guy who was running it, and said, "Hey, I think I could teach this stuff for you, on the boot camp." And he said, "Yeah, I agree." And that kind of started a path for about a year and a half doing that on the side, as well as working in my tech job. And during that year and a half, I started to move away from a lot of the stuff that was in the game. I wasn't really that keen on a lot of what was in there to start with, but I started to really develop this idea of having fun, that mystery thing that a lot of men struggle with, especially when they get into a club, having a good time, having fun with people, smiling, joking, laughing, being in the moment, being, open, honest and so forth. So I really got into that. And then I got kind of fed up with that whole scene, that whole kind of men trying to pick up women. I started to see there was a really dark side of coming across students who didn't love women. They didn't love meeting women. They just wanted to take advantage of them, and they didn't sit well with me because my point of view has been a deep love and reverence for women. I grew up, I've got four sisters. Sometimes I forget. I've got four sisters. And I grew up with them. So I really have a love for women. So I spent many years after that just learning about myself, self-development work, going to workshops, going to courses, week-long things like that. Even went to a Buddhist monastery to stay for a week, 1 year, just to, learn more about me. And I had a partner I was with, fast forward a few years from there, and we were together for about 4 years. We broke up when I was in Bolivia. We were traveling around the world. We traveled all through India and Southeast Asia, flew over to South America to see the Olympics, and broke up in a hotel room in Bolivia in a little town called Sucre. And it all really, for me, stemmed from the idea, and the thing that I struggled with was just speaking about my feelings and emotions, and listening to her without taking it personally and making it all about me, what I've done wrong. So what that kind of created was this cycle where I didn't say how I felt because I didn't want to upset her, because I didn't want her to react, and for me have to deal with her emotional reaction. So I was bottling up all these feelings, all these desires, things I wanted, and it just caused the breakdown of a relationship slowly over a year. And I really vowed to myself then, I was like, I'm not going to happen again. I don't want that to happen again. So I went on a bit of a journey after that. I kept traveling for about 6 months, did some plant medicine, did a lot of meeting new people, a lot of just open-hearted conversation. And then after that, I came back to London, and a friend of mine, the guy I used to run the podcast with, Ahmad, he was like, let's do something with all this dating knowledge. He's like, there's so much dating knowledge that's just about do this, say this, wear this, then say this, then do this, and then trick her into doing this. He's like, but we know that doesn't work long term. We know that that's very superficial and it doesn't build beautiful relationships. So the podcast was born. Originally, it was called the Authentic Dating Series. It's mainly about dating. And, in the last kind of few months, I've expanded it into, changed the name to The Authentic Man, as Ahmad decided to step away around Christmas time. So this has all led to a journey of like self-learning, self-development, growth, coming into myself, maturing more than anything. And there's another side that runs alongside this is my love of sex, sexuality, tantra, things like that I've also brought into my work. Mm-hmm. So now I'm, doing everything from running workshops about masturbation, foreplay, tantra for couples, tantric massage.
We're talking about that today.
And the like. So it's really accommodated and helped me grow and move forward. So out of my own pain, I've turned it, as I often say, your pain can become your gold. And for me, that's really been true for me.
Excellent breakdown of you. And I love how you had the small beginnings. As they say, as the Lord says in the Hebrew Bible, to despise not the day of small beginnings. And, and you came from, and whether anybody out there believes in God or not is, a thing, but it's just good fucking sense, to despise not a small beginning. David didn't get discouraged. He started, he had his heart broken. He went through some shit. He started off helping somebody else, and now he's become the guru of himself. Now your website is absolutely fantastic, theauthenticman.net. And because it's really like a resource and a hub. I love when websites are like that. So it's almost like you have like this creative website and you just happen to have some podcast episodes on there because you got everything else too. You got your blog going, you got courses you design, you got workshop videos coming up and stuff like that. And so we're going to talk all about that in my show notes that I'm going to design for you, but I love it. It's a resource and men can go to you and find out how to become a better man. I was listening to one of your podcast episodes and you said an interesting thing about self-love. And I wanted to talk about self-love up front because I think a lot of the work you do has that infused. I think all the work you do has that infused in it. And you said something like self-love is not always buying ourselves a titty. And sometimes it requires discipline and self-mastery, which is something else that I came across a lot when I was researching you. So tell us, what is self-love and self-mastery? What should not get it confused with?
I think, good question. So self-love to me is, in a real nutshell, and I think sometimes I just see what comes up for me in the moment. Is like, all the love we give to other people, right? For a lot of us, or the love that we want from other people. Like maybe you want a boyfriend or a girlfriend who's going to, take you out for dinner, who's going to give you foot massages, who's going to cook for you, who is going to, tell you how beautiful you look. And, all those things, give that to yourself. That is, to me, the real basics of self-love.
Mm.
All the things you want from outside of you that you crave externally, right? You crave the validation, you crave the love, the feeling, the warmth. Give that to yourself on a daily basis, every day in some way, like, as I said, before I came here today, I took myself and I went and got some Reiki from my Reiki master. And it's like, that's an act of self-love, because I'm giving myself the relaxation and the joy that I love to give to other people, right? And I give that to myself. It's an act of self-love. And where self-discipline kind of comes in is that when you got things like, say, going to the gym, right? Now, going to the gym can be an act of self-love, right? Because maybe you've decided that, you want your body to look a certain way, or not even so much you want your body to look a certain way. Maybe you want your body to feel a certain way, you want to feel a certain way in your body. So it's going to take that you go to the gym, or you go to yoga, or you do some running or Pilates or whatever exercise you choose to do. But you're also going to need some discipline infused into that, right? To keep going, because these sorts of things take discipline. And where the self-mastery comes in, for me, is also looking at yourself and asking questions about who you are and how you feel and what's going on for you. So inside of the example of going to the gym, maybe there's days where you're like, I don't fancy it today. I don't want to go today. And actually, I want to go to the cake shop and eat a whole, massive cake that's normally for 4 people. Now, it could be an act of self-love for you to go and eat that cake. And this is where, it's not always easy to tell, because if you've been going to the gym, 3 times a week for 4 years and you've never missed a session, then inside of that self-love is giving you what you really desire and need in that moment, is to have some cake, to show yourself some love and just have something in you that feels good, right? But if you are on the flip side of someone who's been trying to go to the gym for 3 years and you've gone about 4 times, right? And it's a normal story for you to want this cake. Inside that moment, your act of self-love is to drag your ass to the gym, right? Now, the self-mastery comes in is when you have that thought that is like, I don't really want to go to the gym. And you go, what is underneath that thought? What's going on there? Is there a fear there? Is there a concern? Is there a worry, right? For some of us, if it's like going to the gym, it's like with almost fearful sometimes of, if we do this thing, we will change as a person. And how will the world react to me? Will my family not like me? My friends not like me? Will I be less accepted because I've changed? Right. And that kind of often sits in quite an unconscious place. So self-mastery for me is starting to look at why you do things, why certain things keep happening to you, and why things have happened to you in the past.
I think that's a beautiful breakdown. And when you were explaining about the cake in the gym, my mind went to, so I have a clothing store called Down Under Apparel, and I've worked with models before, and these guys are like zero body fat, 8-pack, all of that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
the first photo shoot that I ever did, they showed up with a bag of like jelly donuts, and I was like, I couldn't understand, like, I don't get it. You look like that, but you're eating that. This isn't fair. And, then they explain, like, bro, we don't do this all the time, but, it was like, they had been preparing for the photo shoot. So they had been going without them. So now they were rewarding themselves with those coveted sweets and everything like that. And, you will see the Olympic athletes when they got the Olympics going now. As soon as they're done with the Olympics, they're at McDonald's getting fast food and everything and all of that. And exactly what, and that probably feels so great going into them. They're listening to this and going, yep, 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 amen, amen, and amen. And okay, so I would like for you to tell me about like a client success story. Of course, I will call him Joe or whatever the hell you feel like calling him. Now, look, I want something juicy. I want a train wreck case, somebody with a hot damn feisty mess. And then when you looked at him, you thought, maybe I can't do nothing with this one. I don't know. Somebody messed up from the flow up is what I want to hear about. And then how you helped them turn that thing around.
Mm. A lot of the guys that come to me, they're not like in real messes. There's just small tweaks that they need, right? Just really small tweaks. So there's a client I had not too long ago. He hadn't been on a date in a few years. He hadn't had any sort of physical activity for
That's a train
a
wreck to
as
me.
well.
That sounds like a train wreck to me. You putting it nicely. That's what I call messed up from the flow up. Now you say no physical activity, so we need to had no sex in like 4 years. Is what you saying?
Yeah,
Oh
something like
no, that's a train wreck. I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead on. I just want people to be clear. That's a train wreck.
that. So, so yeah, after working for a few weeks together, we got him to going to like some speed dating events, right? That he was interested in. So he went to some speed dating events. And beforehand, we've been talking about conversation, how to show up, how to be playful, how to, be the character that he is. And, he goes to the speed dating event. I think he leaves there and he's got like 4 or 5 matches. I think there was like maybe 10 women there, 4 or 5 matches. And for him, he was blown away, because this was like, he hadn't been on date for ages, right? So now he's like, wait, I've just 4 or 5 matches. This is a problem I've never had. Who do I go out with? And I was like, well, you can go out with all of them, right? You don't have to choose in this moment. If you want to go out with them, go out with all of them, right? So there's one girl he goes to see a few times. And I think he goes on a few dates with her. And then one day we're talking and he's like, oh, I feel like on the date she was pushing to come back to my place. And I was like, okay. So what did you do? He was like, no, I didn't think it was right, and blah, blah, blah. And then we kind of unpack that, right? Because sometimes we have these ideas of what's not right and wrong. It's like, well, what did you want? And what did she want? Right. And what was authentically there, there was no manipulation or anything like that. So a few days later, he was messaging me in the morning, was like, oh, the girl's saying these sorts of things to me. And I was like, what's true for you? What would you really love? And he's like, I'd love to give her a massage. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, talk to her about that. So that evening she goes around to his place. And I remember being a bit panicked beforehand. Again, he called and was like, what's going on? He was like, I'm worried, maybe, she doesn't really want that. Maybe this, maybe that. And I said, okay, what's true for you? And what do you sense from her? Right? There's the 2 things. You just feel into those things, right? Don't get too much into like how things have to be, because things don't have to be anyway. And so the girl came round and they spent the night together, and they had a good time. So, I was very happy about that. And obviously, it's not always just about getting laid and having sex, but they had a really beautiful evening together, massage and stuff like that. And they both share some kinks as well. So they were able to explore that sort of thing together. So that was really beautiful to hear. It didn't turn into a relationship for him, but he started to enjoy dating. I think that was the most important thing actually for him was after that, he started to date, he started to enjoy it. He started to have fun when he dated, right? And this is a big thing for a lot of us to go from just dating being this chore, like it's like a job, like it's work, to go to actually realize that dating's about connecting with new human beings, which should always be a beautiful experience.
Man, you're like the best big brother ever. Like that is like, oh, gosh, if I had somebody in my life to give me a relationship like that, a relationship advice like that when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't have turned into a hoe. And, but that is absolutely incredible because he went from no physical interaction. He was abstaining for it for all kinds of reasons. And then when he did finally do it, you walked him through the anxiety. You were there. You were truly his coach. I've played sports before. There's nothing like having like a good coach in your corner. But they make you feel like you could do things or you don't think you can. And then that was a pivotal moment for him because that imprinted upon his understanding a different way of being. And that's what it's all about. So you can go from being a train wreck to a super fast train and living your best life. I want you to go back to how you were saying, like in your 20s, you were having, a lot of meaningless sex and everything. A lot of guys are like fucking their way through town, clocking girls left and right. And so you said you were doing it for a lot of validation but you really didn't get any validation from it. So what inclined you to think that as a man, you should be sleeping with a whole bunch of women. And then at what point did you realize, "Hey, look, this isn't working?"
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a beautiful question. It's a really poignant question because I think it has to start with the fact that I didn't really have a father who was in my life. Like my dad was, he doesn't actually live that far from me even now, but he's not much of a present person in my life, right? He's not emotionally able to be with a child. He's not able to really nurture in any way. And I, you know, it's not his fault. You know, I've really spoken to him about this to a certain degree about his upbringing and realized that it really was his dad was like completely absent as a human being, but there physically, which I think sometimes is almost worse because you see the person there and you kind of think this is how it should be or this is how it shouldn't be, but they don't give you a decent example. So I grew up with a lack of like masculine example in my life. And all the men of like friends of my mum's friends, I could always look at these men and go, you're not the sort of man that I look up and I should look up to. I always knew, I was always like, nope, you're not the sort of man I should look up to. So I didn't have anyone in my life to say, this is how you be a man, right? So I remember going to university and women started to pay attention to me. So I was like, oh, you know, I'll sleep with one and then I was sleeping with two. And then I would be really honest and be like, look, I don't want a girlfriend. I want to, you know, I want to enjoy myself. And I would tell them, like, you know, so no one was expecting, I wasn't lying about it, right? Especially at the start, I wasn't really lying about it. So then I was like, oh, this is fun. And then other guys are like, oh, Dave, you're the man. But they don't necessarily say those words, but they, you know, you get a lot of man points from men. And then on the another perverse turn of this is that when you are being with a lot of women, other women also become more attracted to you, right? Because they see you with other women and they kind of gravitate towards you. So you're in this kind of cycle. And this was for years where, you know, I would go in and out of relationships, but I'd just be like sleeping with a lot of women at any given time, maybe 4 or 5 women I'm meeting up with for a number of months. And in many ways, it's very flattering, very validating, right? Of being a man and being a virile, you know, accomplished man, whether especially in the bedroom, right? But there was a day, and I never forget this day. Actually, it was about probably about 10 years ago. 10 and a half years ago. And I slept with this girl, and I left my bedroom, still in the place I'm in now, and I sat on my sofa, which is literally in front of me where I'm sitting. And I had some biscuits in my hand, and I was eating the biscuits. And at one point, I finished the biscuits, and I just sat there staring at the wall. And I kind of had my head in my hands and then I lay down and fell asleep on the sofa, right? But what I was feeling there was this emptiness. I didn't really want to go back into the bedroom with the girl because there was no real connection with me and her. And I was just like, this is empty, you know, this is empty. And I was like, this is empty and it's not making me feel good, but it's externally validating me. And it's very easy to get very addicted to that external validation, right? And even get quite addicted to the ejaculation of being with a woman and ejaculating and touching them and holding them, right? It could be quite an addictive thing if you never look at the underlying feeling that's happening that you're running away from. Because often as a man, if you're just constantly chasing sex, you're chasing the next woman or the next man, right? You're chasing something, but what's behind you? What are you running away from, right? This is, we often forget this is like, often we're just running away from ourselves and our own feeling of loneliness or worthlessness or a desire for connection. And in that moment, I was like, I feel lonely. And I've got like 4 women I could call up tomorrow and they'd all come to my house, you know, and I felt lonely in those moments. So I started to make changes then. I started definitely to make changes then. And it, you know, sometimes I would say, wouldn't say necessarily I felt I was, there was a point where I worried I was a sex addict, you know. I've been accused by a woman I was seeing. She was like, you have an addiction, you know, you don't need to be sleeping with 4 women. And I really thought about that for a long time. And it worried me. Um, but after that, I was like, you know, I don't need to live like this. I don't need to just kind of, for want of a better phrase, churn through women in that way, you know. So I kind of left those days behind. And, you know, there's a couple of times I flirted with that life a little bit, but I was still a lot more conscious of, am I doing this because this is a really beautiful experience with someone who I'm really enjoying my time with? Or am I doing this just because I'm running away from, like, you know, looking at my own thoughts and feelings about my own loneliness or my own inadequacy? So, you know, that's that self-mastery piece is, again, you know, it's looking at why you're doing something and understanding that instead of just denying it.
That's like how I learned in my hypnotherapy training when I got my certification in hypnosis. You know, so much of it revolved around understanding the why behind the why, how we can do things like on autopilot or for all these great reasons, and the real reason behind it is embedded, deep within our subconscious. And then hypnosis is all about breaking through the conscious mind and getting to the root of problems. And a lot of times it is that our upbringing and everything. So a person maybe having maybe out there being a hoe, or maybe having problems in their relationship, at work, all kinds of things. And it's because of something negative anchored in their subconscious, in which the subconscious, I think, was like 78% of the brain or something like that.
Oh.
And I think the conscious was only like 12%, if I remember. I mean, 88% subconscious, I think 12% for the conscious mind, if I remember correctly. So most of what we are doing is being manipulated by experiences that we've had before, until we begin to own up to that. And what you're doing is in that vein of work, and your experiences speak to that. So you were able to basically coach yourself, you know, to a better state of thinking and being. Now, you also said that you avoided commitment, and it was due to a deep-seated fear of rejection or of choosing the wrong woman. I really want you to talk about the rejection aspect, because from my dealings with men, and y'all, I've dealt with a lot of them in my day. Mama knows. Mama knows. I did what you did too, but I was fucking a whole lot of men when I was like in the military, and and all of that. It's a little bit different, but still I was, trying to fill a void. For me, my dad would prefer me to have been straight, and that wasn't gonna happen. And so, where'd you go from there? Now I'm in the military, I'm 17, and don't ask, don't tell. So I can't really have a good relationship, or I'll get kicked out. But, dick is readily available. So what you gonna do? And so,
a lot of dick in the military.
And then I was in a college town, child. I had to go.
You had it going on.
I was like 19 and everything. Oh, Lord Jesus. Fire. It was a fire. That's all we have for the free version of the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast, my beautiful people. But hey, if you're vibing on what you're hearing and want to take it to that next level, then perhaps a subscription may be in order. Access the full-length episodes only cost $2.99 a month, or you can do $25 for a year. Or if you're down on your cash, you can literally donate any amount for 30 days of full access. All of this information can be found at sexdrugsandjesus.com, where you'll also find my blog and lots of resources as well. Your subscription strengthens our ability to reach the world and help hurting people. And by subscribing, you would become a part of that effort. Thank you so much for listening. And just remember that everything is going to be all right.